So this video is going to be a little different. Today I'm going to answer a question of whether or not you should switch from woke American comics to Japanese manga and anime. And if you like these type of videos and you want to help out the channel, then maybe consider joining my Patreon. So the idea of getting into manga and anime isn't really something new for me. For years I didn't really know that much about comic books, and I did watch a lot of anime, but not too much. I wasn't one of those freaky weebs. I just watched, I don't know, Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is Other Tribe, by the way, Demon Slayer, and Cowboy Bebop. Now, anime elitists would probably laugh their ass off at me and go, wait, you haven't watched One Piece since episode 1? You haven't watched like the million seasons? No, I haven't. One Piece is a piece of garbage. And I suppose it was really that culture of people who were into anime and manga that annoyed me, to the point where I just switched back to comics. And for the most part, American comics back in the 70s, 60s, 80s, and even 90s were better than most anime and manga. I say for the most part, because there is a lot of Japanese manga and anime that I did not know about that are as good as the American stuff. And that's mainly what I'm going to be talking about today, because I'm not going to say that all of American comics suck, because they gave us the X-Men, Daredevil, Batman, Spider-Man, and there's a lot of hidden gems in indie companies as well, like 2000 AD and First Comics. So I'm never going to turn around and say ditch your American comics and Japan is way better. But in the last few weeks I've done my research and I've figured out that there is a lot of really good Japanese manga out there. So I'm not really an expert, but if you're in the same position that I was, where you're kind of getting sick of Absolute Batman and Ultimate Spider-Man, then maybe consider watching this video as a guide to get into some real manga. But a quick disclaimer before I start talking about these: most of these aren't really widely available, and I don't even own most of them. You have to read them through other sources, which I probably can't really say on YouTube, but it's all you have, because most of these might not even be in English. So starting off is a manga that many people have recommended me. It's pretty popular. There's video games, animes, movies based off of it, and I've known about it for a pretty long time, but I always brushed it under the rug and went back to watching Attack on Titan, which is a complete crock. But after being a naive moron, I actually decided to read the damn thing. I'm of course talking about Fist of the North Star, which is probably literally the most mind-blowing manga you could ever read. I talk about rip-offs all the time on this channel, and it kind of annoys me when people take an idea and just completely copy it. And maybe that's what Fist of the North Star is, because it's basically Mad Max mixed with Enter the Dragon and all the other Bruce Lee movies. But to be completely honest, I don't give a crap. The thing is utterly awesome. Even though the main character, Kenshiro, who is 10 times more badass than Goku, Deku, Naruto, and everybody else in anime and manga, might I add. Even though he looks identical to the Road Warrior and Bruce Lee, he still remains pretty original. And the same goes for the world and the characters in it. They're not complete copies from anything. But all that aside, this manga has everything you could ever want, and you don't really get some of this in American comics. At Marvel and DC, old or new, we still weren't getting stuff like this. That's one of the main reasons why you could switch over to manga or anime, because where Batman doesn't actually kill anybody and all he does is cry about it, someone like Kenshiro makes people's heads explode. I'm not joking, that's the entire comic. He's walking through the wasteland like an absolute badass, helping the downtrodden and crushing anybody who gets in his way. And he's not just doing it for the sake of it. Unlike many American comics, this is a clear-cut plot where there's a super evil villain who stole the main guy's girl and then got away. And now Kenshiro will literally blast through armies of guys to get to him. Now I won't talk too much on this because I could do a full video, and if you haven't read it, you should. And if you haven't, you should also watch the anime or the movie, which are both utterly badass. So these next ones I'm going to be talking about, I haven't read too much of, because as I said, most of them aren't widely available. But still, they are worth looking into and are better than most American comics I've ever read. So just for a little bit of background, have you ever seen the American action movie, Leon the Professional? Yeah, it's a total piece of crap, yet it's hailed by critics and fans across the world. Have you ever watched John Wick and thought that he was badass, this cold as ice assassin? Have you ever watched The Matrix and thought that the idea of it was super original and great? great. Well, all of that has been done in manga. So Leon the Professional, John Wick, any Hitman movie you've ever seen is most likely taking inspiration from two things: the iconic badass James Bond 007, or the manga that I'm going to be talking about here, Golgo 13. Golgo 13 is a manga that came out in 1968, so that's before all your precious Dragon Ball and Naruto and One Piece. And instead of being a weak gay like somebody like Deku from My Hero Academia, instead Golgo 13 has Duke Togo, the man with the nickname Golgo 13, as this assassin who is basically the best assassin in the entire world. And have you ever read an American comic and there's no blood, there's no guts, there's no nudity, and you're sitting there going, yeah, so this is basically for kids, isn't it? Well, Golgo 13 goes the exact opposite of that. Golgo 13 has exactly what every single woke American comic is missing. It has a badass main dude who's always smoking a cigar or wearing a trench coat. Beautiful women just flock to the guy, and all he does is just aim his badass sniper rifle at people and pull the trigger. You could call it simple and boring, but you'd be dead wrong, and you're probably gay. Because if you don't think that that is absolutely awesome, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Golgo 13 is also the longest running manga ever, so before you start telling me about Jujutsu Kaisen and all this new crap, go back and take a look at the originals. Another old manga, which I believe it's from like 1972 or 1973, is Go Nagai's Devilman. Now, Devilman is the source of some controversy over the years, because it used to be a really obscure, awesome manga and anime that only real cool people were into. Like the legend of punk rock and metal, Glenn Danzig, the guy who basically published this at his comics company in English. But in recent times, weird freaks have gotten their hands on Devilman. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't read the manga, because you definitely should. It's basically a way more metal and badass take on Spider-Man, where this guy who's really weak and is always getting bullied gets transformed into this demonic monster. And what ensues is some heavy metal kick-ass that has inspired many American comics. Now, what many freaks know about Devilman nowadays is basically wrong. They think that Devilman is gay, which he isn't. The main character, Akira, has a girlfriend since chapter 1, and because of some gay Netflix anime, people are coming in saying that it's always been LGBTQ. Go screw yourself. Anime and manga and Devilman just isn't for you. Go back to your degenerate Pride Parade. Another great classic manga that is better than most new stuff is Captain Harlock, Space Pirate. Yeah, this comic might be taking inspiration from some French stuff, but to be honest with you, every time somebody says that to me, I just get annoyed. You're telling me to go read some French comic that has like 2 pages, because I don't like French comics. Stuff like Black Sad sucks. French Conan sucks. Read John Buscema's Conan, then come back to me. Yeah, it might have influenced a lot of manga like Akira and Ghost in the Shell with the cyberpunk design, but I'm just going to be straight with you. Japan did it better than France. And I don't know, maybe there was a French comic like Captain Harlock where a guy was a pirate going through space, but surely it wasn't as badass as this. Captain Harlock is this long-haired, cape-wearing badass in space who is fighting for freedom. Now, I haven't read too much of this because I still have to get the first classic collection, but from what I've seen, this is really worth your time. Now, there's much more I could talk about. I could probably do a different video, like City Hunter, which is this hard-boiled new war manga that really just blew me away, because the thing is everything I want out of a comic or a manga. I read American comics and I'm stuck wishing for a comic where the guy isn't a superhero and he's just a detective or a cop. And that's what City Hunter is, where this guy who's basically a mercenary assassin and private detective is going through Tokyo, and he's the best there is at what he does. And what he does is wield a cold python and blow away scumbags. And hopefully the brand new omnibus of City Hunter that's coming out will be good, so many people can discover this great manga. Vampire Hunter D is another manga that really interests me. I haven't really read anything of it, but I really do want to. And it should be mentioned that cringe crap like Hellsing and Bloodborne and tons of new Japanese media takes from Vampire Hunter D. And then you have famous ones like Akira and Ghost in the Shell, which Ghost in the Shell does look pretty good, all weird lesbian stuff aside. But these manga are R-rated and adult. They're not boring. It doesn't feel like there's a limit to the violence and the nudity, and in my opinion, that's the way comics and manga should be. And another manga that I'm really interested in and that I love to read, but you can barely even find it anywhere for a cheap price, is Bastard, heavy metal dark fantasy. Yeah, that's the name of the manga. That should let you know how badass it is from the start. And it's exactly what the name says. It's a dark fantasy story with a guy who's basically Elric, but in my opinion, kind of cooler, because he's named after the singer of Accept. You know, like the most badass German metal band to exist. So you're telling me there's a manga where a long white-haired dude wields swords, there's scantily clad babes, there's dragons, there's volcanoes, there's spells that are named after every metal band ever, and the entire thing is R-rated and more masculine than every American comic ever. Sign me up. Screw Absolute Batman. Screw everything from the 90s and 2000s from America. This is the type of stuff I want to read. So this was only the tip of the iceberg today, but if you have any more recommendations for manga or anime, do let me know. Reject woke modern American comics where the men are weak and gay and the women are fat, race swapped, black and also gay, and embrace the heavy metal kick-ass of manga and anime. And if you got a problem with that, go complain to your boyfriend.